Welcome to this episode of Spark and Ignite Your Marketing. Today, we're thrilled to have a guest who embodies both the spirit of artistry and entrepreneurship. Janna Willoughby-Lohr. Did you know that the market for eco-friendly products has seen remarkable growth with a 300% increase in consumer demand over the last decade? This trend highlights the growing importance of sustainability in consumer choices, a principle that drives companies like Papercraft Miracles. Based in Buffalo, New York, Janna is an accomplished artist, poet, and musician, and the driving force behind Papercraft Miracles. Her company specializes in handcrafted paper art, beautiful gifts that are imbued with meaning and intent. Since founding her company in college in 2003, Janna has grown Papercraft Miracles into a pillar of sustainable creativity and business success. Janna's entrepreneurial spirit has been recognized with numerous accolades, including a $25,000 Ignite Buffalo Small Business Grant and being named among the 40 under 40 for stationery and gifts. Her influence extends far beyond her business as she plays an active role in shaping future entrepreneurs through her volunteer work and mentorship, and as a voice of inspiration on her own podcast called Reach for the Stars. Today, we're set to explore Janna's journey, the intersections of her craft and entrepreneurial ventures, and the power of impact of combining both your passion and your business savvy. Welcome, Janna.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Excited to have you here. It's such an interesting kind of niche that you serve, and I'm excited to learn more about your entrepreneurial journey. So tell us a little bit about Papercraft Miracles and actually who you serve, so we can have a background before we dive into your journey and all the things.
So, Papercraft Miracles is, as you said, it's an eco-friendly handmade paper art company. We make magical things out of paper that make people happy. We help people connect, communicate, and celebrate. And since I started it such a long time ago, it was always my dream to be an artist, but I didn't want to be broke. So I ended up creating my own college major, designed specifically around entrepreneurship and creative art, because the art degree had no information about how to create a career and sell any art.
Yeah.
And the business degree was like, you can learn how to do business, but you won't learn how to make art. So I was like, I can't do either of those. So I made up my own major and integrated the two together, including a bunch of courses on social work, because in order to sell art, which is not like selling any other product, you have to learn how to work with people. And so that was really at the heart of what I wanted to do. We mainly do custom orders and commission-based work. So we work directly with clients all the time, project basis. We do have a lot of things that are pre-made. We have an e-commerce store. We have a little boutique and things on consignment, wholesale, and things like that, just to kind of repeat steady money coming in the door in between big projects. But yeah, our jam is to say yes when other people say no. Or to say let's make it work when someone else says that's possible. So we have a really client-focused way of working. I say, come in my Zoom or come into my studio, sit on my couch, tell me about who you're trying to reach. Let's figure out the best way to say what you want to say. So that being said, we do have a couple of different departments that we work with. So we have corporate swag and corporate gifting, client gifting, that thing. So we do a lot of B2B kind of things like that, especially now that more bigger companies are trying to get sustainable swag and sustainable things like that. So we've been doing a lot of stuff like that for bigger companies. And then we do a lot of sustainable weddings and events. And so those are also on a project basis. So they could be a wedding, it could be a graduation party, it could be a nonprofit fundraiser, whatever. But we are a one-stop shop for that. We do invitations and branding. We do paper flowers. We do guest books, table numbers, place cards, favors, and make it all match go together. And then we also have this kind of B2C where we do a lot of custom gifts directly for people who say, I need a special gift for so-and-so's memorial, or somebody's turning 75, or I just have a friend who's really going through some stuff and needs a special thing to pick up every day. And we really specialize. I think our sweet spot is helping people say things they don't quite know how to say. In the purpose of marketing talk, who's our target market? It's women between 20 make over $100,000 a year. They care about the environment. They care where their money goes. They want to make a difference. They want to do business with someone where it's going to make a difference. they value handmade items, but don't have any time to make them. Those are my clients.
I'm creative, but I don't have the time to do the creativity sometimes because I'm creative all day. The last thing I want to do is be creative for a person. It's hard to be that creative for a personal gift. Like I probably could create something, but oh Lord, I don't have time for that or the energy. So you're like hitting a very good sweet spot for me.
I love that. People come and it's like, sometimes I have dreams actually, like I'm more of a concept artist, right? So people come to me and they're like, I have this idea for this thing, but I don't know how to say it, or I don't know how to make it, or I don't quite know how to bring this idea to reality. And I say, just tell me the story. Tell me about it. Tell me the story. And I think that's my superpower. It's like hearing the things people aren't really saying, or like picking out the important parts of the story, all those little details, and saying, okay, we could incorporate those in this way. So for instance, we had clients who had their first date at a pizza place and they were like, we want to make special wedding invitations. And I was like, let's make them on a basil. We can show people where we come from. Right. So it's not just telling the story of your first date. And every single person who went to that wedding remembers those invitations. They remember that story because they heard it while they got to hold their hand. Right.
Oh, I love that so much because everybody's tactile. I probably even was like, basil is very strong. Maybe even like a smell. Like you're hitting all the senses, Janna. You are like getting everything with a lovely story all wrapped into it too. So very cool. So how did you get to here though? Like how did you went to college for art and business and social work, but how did you get to this custom, very niche focus? Were you always artistic as a kid? Like how did you get here?
It's a magical story. So I had always done artsy things, and I originally went away to school to be a poet. I had been writing since I was 5 and doing performing. I started performing when I was 12 and started doing poetry slams and stuff like that before I went away to college, and I won a scholarship for poetry. So I went there to do that, and then I saw that they had all these classes about paper making and bookbinding, and I had always had a journal, and I collaged and would cut up magazines and do vision boards and that kind of stuff. And I was always using repurposed materials because we were broke and I had no art supplies, stuff like that. As soon as I saw that was a thing you could actually take classes in, I was like, what? Mind blown. Gotta take that. Like doing that. So I took all those classes. And then when I met with my advisor at the end of that year, I said, these are all the classes I took. What major am I working for? And he goes, those are all electives. So and I was there on a scholarship and I was like, crap, what am I supposed to do now? And he could have just said major in communications and called it a day. Would do, but he did. Thank him every single day, John Casey. That he said, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I want to be an artist, but I don't want to be broke. How do I do that?" And he's the person that said, "We have this major called integrative studies. You know what you want to do." Because most people don't even know by the time they're 45 what they want. You want 19. Do it. Spend your 4 years figuring out how to sell art and do it. So I did. And while I was in school, first semester of my junior year, 3 years into the school year, my mom passed away on Friday the 13th, which sucked. And I was going to school 900 miles away. Brother and I inherited her house, but she had no will. And anyone who's been in that situation, get a will. Get a will. Do it for all the people around you. Because when you don't have one, it makes everything so complicated because everyone still has to deal with all the stuff, but they have no money to do. And so my brother and I were 20 and 23, 900 miles apart, inheriting this house and somehow trying to take care of it while we had no financing, no resources, no nothing. And then 4 months later, the day before the new semester was supposed to start for school, my dorm burnt to the ground.
Oh my gosh.
While I was in it on my mom's birthday. The first birthday she would have had after she died. And I was like, seriously? Like, where's the cancer in the bus? It's coming to hit me. Because wait, is this my life now? Like, what? And then they cut my financial aid for my senior year because I couldn't put her on my FAFSA. While in the middle of this, I was trying to figure out how I was going to wrap up my major. Like, I knew I wanted to be an artist. I knew I wanted to use my creativity. I was still doing poetry, still doing music, making art, doing all these things. I was like, how do I tie all these things together? And after all of that stuff happened, like 3 days after the fire, I looked at my roommate and I was like, dude, all our crap burned up. And I started laughing. And she started laughing. And we started rolling around the ground like crazy people laughing. And after that, like it had to be funny at that point. And I kept thinking, I don't know if you're like a woo numbers person, but many times since my mom passed away, she has shown up for me in physical, tangible, very visual ways. And a lot of them revolve around numbers. And so I knew that the fire happening on her birthday, where she would have turned 55 is my lucky number. I was like, there is something, this is happening to me for a reason. I don't want to feel everything happens for a reason, people, but sometimes terrible things just happen and they're terrible and there's no good reason for that. But this is one of those things that I was like, there's something I need to learn here. One, 55 is too low. So there's me and everyone who was in this building, all these drunk college students, at 4:00 in the morning, everyone got out alive and no one was seriously injured, which is just amazing. So that's obvious. But I was like, what's the other lucky? And I just kept thinking, like, my mom was a total hoarder. Like, we grew up in a very insane house. And she was also a chain smoker. I was afraid we would die every day of my life. Like when I went to college, where it actually happened. And it just hit me like on that third day. I was like, she's sending me a lesson that she didn't learn when she was alive. Your stuff doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters. Even the things that are super special and you think are really important, if they're gone, you don't need them. You don't need them. And so in the middle of all this grief and trauma and figuring out how to come back to life after so much of what feels like dying, I was like, what can I do? She would never want me to quit school. I have to figure it out. She would be so mad if I gave up on my dream of being an artist because she gave up on her dream of being an artist and it didn't make her feel any good. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And I went into the art studio and I started making all of these artist books, which are a really special art form where the form and the design, the materials and the illustrations and the words and how you interact with it and what it sounds like when you open it and what it feels like when you interact with it all work together to make one bigger concept or a bigger idea. I was like, I'm going to start making all these artist books about my experience, about grief and trauma and love and having a completely different perspective on life than most people I was going to school with. And I didn't realize at the time, but when you're 20 years old in college, your measure of success is the things because you don't have a house, you don't have a computer, you haven't established yourself anywhere, but you're like, oh, I have these nice things in my room. I set about doing these sort of show and tell events with this art that I was making to tell people, hey, wake up. It's amazing that you get to be alive right now.
Yeah.
And I started doing these events and telling the story of these books and showing them to people. And so many people would come up to me afterwards and be like, I had no idea that I was dealing with some stuff. And I'm a different person than I was 5 minutes ago before I saw them.
That's amazing.
Like I would show them to people and they would cry. And just knowing that making them healed me, but sharing them healed other people, I was like, I don't care what I do for the rest of my life, but I want to do. And I want to do that as often as possible, as intentionally as possible every single day. Because you never know when you are doing something or saying something or having that conversation with someone that changes their life forever. They might never even tell you that. So as long as you put it out there, not necessarily giving unsolicited advice for people, but inspiring people as often as possible, working to change people's perspectives and say, in the grand scheme of life, this is a small thing. Whatever that drama is at the office is a small thing. There are so many more things to be grateful for and to embrace as beautiful in the world. And that if you're going to have stuff around you, it better spark some joy. And so I started making a lot of like handmade books and things like that, kind of art pieces that help people connect like that. And after I graduated, I had a business plan when I graduated. I thought of a name for the business. I made a really crappy Angel Fire website, totally dating myself.
No.
I could not make a website where you could buy things in 2004. It was not possible. But I had a website. It had like 5 pictures on it and they were this big. But I had them and started building my internet presence. And I did that. I had a little tiny print catalog I made and some business cards. And I graduated and I came back to Buffalo. And I still had a house that was about to fall apart, needed to get a day job. But on the side, whenever I had time, I was still making art for people. And as my friends were getting married or having babies, I was making stuff for them because I was broke and I didn't have any money to buy them a gift. But I knew I could make something that they would keep forever. And as I was making these invitations or making people a guest book or a photo album or whatever, people at those events would see it. Wow, that's really cool. That's really cool. Where'd you get it? And they would share the story of where they got it. And I started building up more clients like that. So mostly I did a lot of B2C type of stuff for a long, long time. I did some vendor events, figured out where my audience is and where my audience is not, which is really important for anyone who's like trying to sell things. Actually handmade things, like your people are not everywhere. If it's in a church basement, my people are not there. It's in a VFW, my people are not there, which is fine. I just know not to go through those shows. So I did a little bit at a time like that and did it very much part-time, made a couple grand a year, enough where my accountant was like, yeah, you should start collecting sales tax. And you can eventually, by 2013, I filed all the paperwork and did it right. But I had this business plan with the name Papercraft Miracles on my shelf. I still have it on my shelf now. And it had that name, and I called it Papercraft Miracles because it's the miracle that saved me when I literally had them.
It's a beautiful story. And I think it resonates with me very strongly because at 19, I was diagnosed with a very serious virus and my whole life changed. I was in college, and when you're 19, 20 years old, you think the whole world's ahead of you and nothing could possibly hurt you. There's such a naivete and trust in the world at that age, I think, that you don't really get the power of the moment. And I actually planned my own funeral because I thought I was going to die at 19. And I live life very differently from the people who have not had those experiences. They change a fundamental thread of who you are and how human you are and what matters to you. I did not have art to get me through it, but I had writing.
Still art.
And I think, right. But I wasn't a visual sharing of that. But the writing, I have slowly over the years shared different parts of it through the process. It was, you're going down a road and the road didn't just go, it went whoop, and you have to refigure out who you are in that, with that new knowledge, that new information that you have, whether it's trauma or grief or an awareness or all the things. And certainly resonates very strongly with me in the sense of definitely getting on a path of the things that matter and why it matters. So very powerful story, and storytelling is such a big part of branding. And I love that your story, who you are, where you come from. I love that. What frustrates you or makes you angry about your industry? Art, paper crafts, sustainability? What is the thing that you want to change? Because I feel like you're doing something very different. So what is the thing that you really want to change that makes you frustrated from?
Initially, the thing that made me most frustrated is that back in 2004, and I was like, I want to make journals. I want to make stationery. I think writing letters to people is super special and important. And I had so many people say, oh my God, you're making books, you're making journals. No one's going to write in a book ever again. Everyone's going to be on LiveJournal.
Oh yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
So I had a lot of naysayers and stuff like that. And I just did it anyway. And the LiveJournal came and LiveJournal went, right? And then Facebook came, Instagram came, and Twitter, and all the social media and email and everything. We grew into this world where everything is so intangible. And people spend so much more of their day indoors and not having face-to-face conversations with people. And pre-Zoom, pre-FaceTime, you weren't even having that, right? So it was all digital. And what happened? That huge swaths of people were like, why am I so depressed? Why does life suck? Why do I feel so disconnected? Why am I so lonely? Why is everyone else's life so great and mine is terrible? Blah, 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 blah. And I just noticed how different the world was. Even when I went to college and no one had a cell phone, and we sat around in dorm rooms and we sat around campfires and we sat in the woods and we talked. We had painful conversations about life and our place in the world. And all of a sudden people weren't doing that. Everything was likes on a picture or only showing the best parts of your life on your social media and putting a filter on yourself and hiding all your scars and pretending everything is great all the time. And what happens? People see it, and other people who everything isn't great all the time, they feel terrible. And you feel terrible because you see somebody else's beautiful pictures and their bed where all their sheets are white. No one's sheets are white. No one's sheets are white. Remember these things, okay? So I really get frustrated with people who only show the best parts on social media. And I started doing a lot of the things that I'm doing now to combat that, to help people learn how to have conversations again, how to talk about stories, how to tell their story and feel like they matter, that their story is important, that the things they have to share and the ways they can connect with people can change the world.
And that life isn't so sanitized. Like it's not, it's rich and deep and messy, and it's okay. One of the things that I really valued, Janna, what you're talking about is you leaned into the pain, the grief, you didn't, I just have to make it better. No, you're like, how do I process this, work through this? And what am I going to learn from this? And I think that is such a powerful form of resilience that so many people don't understand or try to do. They just try to sanitize everything. And I think that's an unfortunate byproduct of a very digital space. But yes, I agree with you. Like it's rich and wonderful and all of its messiness and glory. It's glorious. Yes.
Yeah, I'm definitely not knocking social media. Social media is great. It has allowed me to connect with people all over the world and market my business for free, which is amazing, seeing as I am a mompreneur and I have 3 small kids now. But rewinding a little bit as to like when I really started doing what I'm doing now, after I had my first son, my husband and I had bought this commercial building where we live. We live upstairs and we have commercial tenants downstairs. We had a huge mortgage that was terrifying. And a commercial building, I don't know if anyone knows this, when you buy commercial property, especially in New York State anyway, not only do you have to put 20% down in cash, but you need to pay that mortgage in 5 years. We bought our house and we had to pay it off 5 years. 2 years into it, I got pregnant with our first son. And the job where I was working, because I still had a day job, I had to pay the mortgage, where the job where I was working said, you have to either come back full time after your leave or figure something out. And I was like, you don't pay me enough to cover healthcare and daycare. And if I come back full time, I will pay someone else to raise my kid and come home with negative dollars. That's not worth it. That's not worth it for me. So I guess I'm going to figure something else out. And I was terrified because I had been an independent, taking care of myself person since I was 20 years old. I owned a home and took care of it and hired contractors and paid homeowners insurance and all that kind of stuff and taxes since I was 20 years old. Quitting my job, also having this huge mortgage, and now also having the expense of having a kid was really terrifying for me. And my husband said, he's amazing. He was like, we'll figure it out. Just stay home and do your book thing. That's what he said, in quote, do your book thing. Because at the time I was really still just making books and journals and stuff like that. Because I didn't have a lot of equipment. I didn't have a big studio. My office was one of the bedrooms in our, and quit the job. Immediately, all the money I'd ever made in my business, I put in a bank account. I used it to buy supplies, and I never took money out because I didn't have to have a job. And I was like, I'll just bank this because someday I'm going to buy all this equipment. Someday I'm going to do this. Someday I'm going to do that. Got to put it out there, manifest that stuff, and quit the job. I hired a friend of mine, a fellow mama, to help me rebrand the company. Got a new logo. She showed me how to use Squarespace. Finally got to build a website where people could buy things. And I started building up my social media while I was at home with a baby. And I wasn't trying to sugarcoat any of it. I was like, this is my journey of quitting my job and trying to really do it for real. This dream I've had my whole life been on hold for so many years while I had to adult when I didn't want to adult. I posted all about this is the struggle of being a mom and trying to build a company. This is the struggle of how do I find time to teach my kid how to use a spoon? How do I find time to clean my house and also grow a business and work on projects for clients? And how do I meet with clients in a professional setting when I have goldfish crackers ground into the carpet in my office? Like, how do I do that? And I was posting pictures and stories. This is all before you could do a lot of video on Instagram, way back in 2016. And I just started growing my Instagram by doing that. And there were so many other creatives who followed me who were like, if she's doing it with a little baby on the floor, I could do it. I could do it. I could do it. And it's just seeing so many other artists just like spring up and teaching them things about how to run a business. Cause I knew a lot about business stuff that other artists didn't know, because nobody teaches artists that stuff. They just don't. They don't have those classes. Just little by little, I was like building that up, and I would sign up for education programs. I did this entrepreneur boot camp and learned more, built up my website, and just a little bit at a time. I had a whole Pinterest board of business tips. I would go on there in the middle of the night when I was nursing my baby and trying not to fall asleep, and I would research, how do you grow your Instagram? How do you build up an email list? How do you do these things? And I just implemented as many of those things as I could. I tried tons of stuff that didn't work and just kept working on it a little bit at a time. And then 2 months after I quit my job, I was up on Instagram in the middle of the night, and I searched hashtag papermaking. So I was always looking for what other paper makers were doing, because I'd been wanting to have a papermaking studio since before I graduated college. I was like, I want to do this. Part of the reason we bought the building we bought is because it had a space where someday I could do that in the space. Even though I had no equipment, no nothing. It was like this space was there. It was just waiting. And I searched for it, and I saw somebody post said papermaking equipment available with the email address. It was like 3:00 in the morning. And I emailed them, and I said, I've been trying to start a studio forever. What you got? And they sent me back the list. They must also been up at 3:00 in the morning. Sent me the list. And I had a list of all the equipment that I was planning to buy someday when I had enough money. It was like $30,000 worth of equipment. I had this list tacked up on a bulletin board over my desk for 12 years.
Wow.
Every single thing I had on my list was on their list, plus a whole bunch of other stuff. And it was really cheap. And since I had a bunch of money in my business bank account, even though it was terrifying to have no money and to make this big purchase when we have this huge mortgage, I took that risk, and I said, would you take $5,000 for all of it? And they said, yes, we're in Indiana. And I'm in Buffalo, which is pretty far from Indiana. This is not like put it in the mail and ship it to me. This is like a truck full of stuff.
Yeah. You have to go get a rental truck and go get it. Yes.
Right. And so I immediately am like kicking my husband in the middle of the night. I'm like, babe, wake up. And he's like, what? Is the baby okay? I'm like, baby's fine. I found a paper. And he's like, do I need to know this right now? Like,
yes, you do. You do. This is amazing.
So long story short, it made more sense for him to take 2 days off of work. He flew to Indiana. He rented a truck. He loaded it up, and he brought it back. He brought it all into the basement. He installed the sinks so that I could make paper. And I said, take this baby. I'm going to go make paper. And I made so many batches of paper that first couple months. I made all the stuff for my best friend's wedding, which was a huge launch for me because, her family was a lot of people who could afford my services. And they all got to see all the stuff that I made. She made me put my logo on the back of her stuff and put up signs all over her wedding that I made them because she's the sweetest. I would normally never do that. But things like that, it just launched it. And then I was going to all these regular vendor events, but all of a sudden I had all this paper and stationery. And a lot of paper makers make paper that looks like it came out of the ground. I make paper that looks like it came from outer space. And people were like, what is? I didn't even know this was a thing. I don't even know what I want to do with it, but I just want to buy it and have it and put it in a drawer and look at it. So over the years, I have refined the things that we offer, but in general, all the new things that I started making were because a client came to me and said, hey, I have this idea, or I saw this thing. Is this something you could do? Or could you do this better than somebody else is doing it? Mm-hmm. And I ended up adding paper flowers because somebody said, can you make paper flowers? I'm like, yeah, I could probably make paper flowers. And I started making them, and now it's 30% of our revenue is paper flowers. And I got better at it than a lot of people and that type of thing. And then people said, hey, can you make seed bombs, which are recycled paper embedded with seeds. You dip them in water, plant them, and grow. And most people make them, and they look like little lumps. They're not cute, whatever. And I was like, that's a good idea, but we could do that better. And now we're like the leading source of any type of custom seed bombs. And not only are they great for the environment, but what a great breaker for anybody, right? Like business or otherwise. But we have tons, like metric tons of like corporate clients now who buy custom seed bombs shaped in their logo or in their logo colors with
Oh, that's fun.
packaging. And when they hand that out, if they're at a vendor event or they're out somewhere and they're giving something out instead of a business card, they hand that out. Instant conversation. The person they give it for, like, what is this thing? Tell the story. They get to open it up and say, oh my God, get this. This is what they do, but we had them custom made just for us. And we even make, sometimes we have clients who have shredded office paper that they want to get rid of. And I'm like, bring it to us. We'll make your favors out of it. You can say, these are made from our waste material.
That's cool.
We want to keep this out of a landfill. We want to make this have another life before it gets thrown away, before it gets put in the ground. We want to have people plant a garden and then every time it blooms and say, I know who I got those from. And they think of you all way more than they got another koozie. No one wants a koozie.
Nobody wants a koozie. Please don't do koozie. And that's just landfill. That is just literally landfill.
Like signs at a wedding. Don't. If I can, like, you were like, what makes you really mad? People who want those like 9 foot tall acrylic seating charts that are like 9 feet by 15 feet to tell people where to sit at a wedding on a gigantic piece of non-biodegradable, hella expensive, very heavy, space consuming plastic. Don't buy those anymore. Please, can we just get like the not go there anymore? No, we're like at wedding, 0.
So your customers tend to drive your products, it sounds like, what they're wanting or what they're seeing around. Do you see any other trends or things that are emerging in the paper craft market?
Plantable paper, for sure, is majorly on the upswing. And we've made plantable paper for ages. My wedding invitations were made on plantable paper in 2011. I've been doing it for ages. And we have been working really hard on increasing our tech capabilities to be able to print in-house on any of the papers that we make. Yes, we have arrived at that zone in mass because we were getting these requests from huge companies. They're like, can you make 50,000 quantity of this insert card to go with our new eco-friendly sweatshirt or whatever? And I was like, yeah, but like, you got a year because I got to pay someone to stand at the printer and put one sheet at a time in the printer. I'm like, or you got to letterpress them, which is really labor intensive, expensive. So I was like, we got to figure out a way to bring the cost down on this because this is what people want. We got to. So we have been doing a lot of stuff with plantable paper and working with a lot of different companies and using it for product packaging, using it for insert cards, labels, tags, all those kind of things where you normally would have a piece of paper or a piece of plastic or non-recyclable glossy paper. What can we do to interrupt that space and to make that a storytelling capability, right? There's an opportunity to tell a story when you take the label off something and you feel that it's not your regular piece of paper. It has a little thing on it. Hey, this is where this came from. And it tells the story. So we've been doing that kind of stuff. Lots of seed bombs, lots of things that are plantable. Anything that is made entirely sustainable, ideally low to minimal packaging. If there is packaging, then it's recyclable or compostable, ideally home compostable, which hopefully the industry goes further in that direction so people can actually compost them at home and don't have to pay them. Pick up their things that are compostable but need to be in the machine facility. Just in general, reusing, repurposing, upcycling, it's huge. Any way that you can do it, it's huge. We've been of that.
I could see that. I could see that for sure. I could see that. I think to myself, our old real estate agent, she just sent us a card and it was just a packet of seeds, like generic packet of seeds. Like what a difference it would have been to have a very customized, personable seed bomb that had been made. What a difference in a story and a brand experience for that. I could see just elevating everything a little bit. And the story that it tells isn't just about the brand, but that you care about the earth and the sustainability and growing and all of that, which is very cool. I have a section called the lightning round where we get into your favorite business insights, tools, things that inspire you. And
all about it.
What's your favorite way to connect and network?
Oh, in person. If I can do it in person all day.
Is there like a specific like coffee shops or like networking events or like doing public speaking? Is there a specific type of in-person that matters?
If I'm going to say what is the best bang for your buck networking organization, NABO, National Association of Women Business Owners. Sign yourself up, get in a chapter. If you're not near a chapter, sign up as a virtual member. Hands down is the best money I've ever spent in my business. It's empowerment, it's training, it's a sisterhood, people who have your back, who will mention your name when you're not in the room. Every event I've gone to is just the same type of people. And like all networking is not created equal, right? Like everyone is who's in a business has gone to a networking event. You walk in the door and you're like, all these people want something from me.
Mm-hmm.
You all want to give me their card so I can give them me. Hate it, right? It's so not genuine. It's not genuine at all. And it's forced. I was like, what if I don't know anyone who needs life insurance, right?
Yeah.
Well, if I did, maybe I'd mention your name, but who are you as a person? What do you care about? Like, how do I get to know you? And if I know you as a person, maybe I'll refer my friends and family to do business with you. Not just going to take your card and remember it forever. That doesn't work. But every single time I've gone to a novel event, I walk in the door and I get that feeling like all these people genuinely want me to succeed.
What is your favorite business or marketing book?
It's not really a business or a marketing book, but the Enneagram. This book right here. The Wisdom of the Enneagram. Finding out your Enneagram type and learning to recognize ballpark, like what type other people might be, is hands down the best way to learn how to work and connect with other people that I've found. Anyway, knowing like how you interact and how you act when you're in a healthy place, how you respond and how you react when you're not in a healthy place. And just because I love tons of cheerleadering and things like that works really well for me, knowing that doesn't work well for someone like my husband, who's a completely different type, really helps us to be able to work together better and being able to recognize that. Because one thing that I'm take me forever to learn about marketing is that whatever story you're telling, whatever you're posting, whatever you're offering, it's not for you. It's for that. It's for your customer.
Yes.
So you need to how to, they always say, the golden rule is treat people how you want to be treated. Treat people how they want
to be treated. Amen.
And that is the secret to marketing, is figuring out how does somebody speak? What kind of language do they use? What kind of things draw them in? And what kind of things make them feel good and help them open up? And that's how you
very powerful. So you have a podcast, but what's your favorite podcast to listen to?
I was thinking about this earlier because I was reading your question. I was like, I can't think of just one that I love more than anything else, but I'm going to say a couple. One, How I Built This with Guy Raz.
Awesome. Oh my God. Yes.
Oh my God. Yes. He's the best. I love those shows. It is so inspiring for me to learn about all the trials and tribulations and things that these people who are super successful were like, I first did this and it was a total fail. And then I kept going. I love that. And there's always so many golden nuggets out there. Lately, my new fave is Lead Like a Woman, Andrea Houston's podcast. Definitely check that out. It is amazing. I also I like Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard. That's a great one. It's fun.
What is your favorite business tool or app that you use every single day and could not live without?
How do I have one? Oh, I can't pick one. I would say the thing that saves me the most amount of time is Acuity scheduling. Everybody loves them some Calendly, but I don't. I think Acuity scheduling is amazing. That ability to be easy for people to understand. You can set all these different forms so people can, depending on what type of appointment they're booking, they can pay a deposit, they can fill out a form. It saves all the information. It's really easy to do that.
Nice.
Grades with Squarespace. It's great. Other than that, I use Zoho One for CRM, email marketing, all the other things. If I didn't love Acuity so much, I would use their booking too. So yeah, having a good business organizational suite of apps like that makes everything super easy and they all play nice together. That is the key. I'm just getting into that. And then as a maker, like the one app program that I could not live without is called CraftyBase. And it's inventory management software that is ideally made for people who make things by hand. And you can enter all your materials, all your products, all your recipes. It syncs to all your sales channels. It pulls your orders in automatically. You track, say, I made 100 of these. It adds them to your inventory. As you sell them, it pulls them from your inventory.
Nice.
You do reports. It's amazing. You can track where your consignment sales are located in different people's stores. You get checks for them. You can check it off anytime where all your stuff is and how much to the penny it costs you to make things at parts of paper.
Very
That's
helpful for a business
hundreds
owner,
and
for
hundreds
sure.
of hours worth of time. But yeah, those are my top couple.
So this question was not on the preview list. So if we need to take a minute, but if your business was an animal, what would it be and why?
A koala.
Why?
Because it's rare and it's so cute and sweet and they make stress go away and they just are, it's just so cute. But they also have like sharp claws and could like really cut you if needed to be. But mostly it just like hangs out and it's sweet and it makes you feel good.
What's your favorite marketing tactic?
I think it's really a tactic, but just being really authentic and genuine, being real with people, getting my face in front of the camera, talking to people, telling a story, showing and telling, show and tell. I will say that, show and tell.
It goes back to first grade basics.
Like you don't want your marketing to look or feel like an ad. I heard the episode of How I Built This with Gary Vee, right? Everybody knows what.
Oh, I love Gary Vee. Yes.
Marketing, right? So there was 2 episodes where Guy Raz was talking to Gary Vee, and one of them he was talking about kind of like guerrilla marketing, where you don't want your marketing to interrupt what someone is doing. You want your marketing to be the thing that they pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want it to look and feel like an ad. You want it to be something that people feel like they have a part of or that is entertaining for them. Like not just entertaining because it's funny, but you want it to go with the flow of what they're already interested in.
Who or what is your biggest source of inspiration?
For most of my life, it was my mom. The first day of kindergarten, where I was already writing in cursive and writing poems and stuff like that. And even though I went to the gifted and talented school, like the first thing they had us do was color a dinosaur. And I came home and I was like, Mom, kindergarten is boring. It's so boring. And she said to me, do it because you can, not because anyone's going to make you. If you're bored, you're not right. Think about that a lot, where it's, am I able? Is this something I'm able to do? Can I do it? Something is really boring to me. How can I make it interesting? How can I gamify whatever I'm doing? So for years and years and years, that was like my number one source of inspiration. And now I think it's a toss up between my dad and my daughter. My dad was a brilliant, world-changing scientist. He just passed away right after Christmas. And we weren't super close, but just knowing the ways that he dedicated himself to the things that he was passionate about, his career. He literally changed the face of science forever in the ways that he came up with new discoveries. And then he created all these different tools to be able to continue the study and help other people figure out how to use the data and the research that he was coming up with for other purposes scientifically. He changed the world. And I look at his resume and I'm like, that's a lot to live up to. And there's days when I think about how I didn't see him very often because he was always at work, where I know that there's part of that in me. There is part of that drive to be at work 19 hours a day and work the whole house and change the world and do the things. But if you only do that, then your kids only remember you as the parent that was at work. And while I do believe that leaving a legacy with your work is also important, making sure that your kids know you enough to know why you were doing is also important. I have 3 kids, but my daughter was she's our surprise baby. I like to say that some of the best gardens are. She showed up at a time where I was really struggling to find contentment and to not try to run away. It was during this COVID baby. So I was like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. I am going stir crazy in this life. Not that it wasn't fulfilling, but it was just like, life is so short and I need to do all the things and I need to do all. And she showed up to be like, you are going to lie down on the couch. You are not going to go and add things to your plate right now. You are going to confront those things that you're hiding from. You are going to sit with those feelings that are hard and you're going to confront them. And she made me slow down. And I didn't think I was going to have another baby. So all of those little baby things that I had rushed through with especially my second kid, I was so focused on my business and focused on everything else and very overwhelmed with being a work at home mom and trying to do it all by myself that I missed a lot of those things. And so I took maternity leave and my staff ran my business without me. For 3 months, I'd live upstairs. So I was around, but I wasn't managing everything. I was hanging out with my baby every day. And every morning I get up and I'm now doing exercise and she comes out and I can see her like sitting next to me, like trying to exercise. She's 2 years old. And I was like, baby, I did it. I did the exercise. And she goes, yeah. And just knowing that I have the power to shape how she sees it.
Mm-hmm. The idea of your children cheering you on. My son is my biggest fan. I won an award and he wanted to take the award to school with him and show his classmates. I think it's very humbling and very centering when you have a child and you share your achievements with them and what that looks like for them in their world. Because they're so free to give you the love and the support that it's really beautiful. So I can definitely relate to that. Yeah. If you could give 18-year-old Janna some advice, what advice would you give her?
Don't try to free prisoners who are in love with their chain. But I would have accomplished a lot more in my life had I not wasted time and trying to help someone who wasn't ready to be helped or didn't want help or didn't need help or wasn't benefiting them to help. And if I had spent all that time on helping myself and putting myself out there more than I even was, and honestly, not giving a crap about dudes, like not focusing my life on any dudes at that point would have been way better. I would have been in a way better place. I had been desensitized to the dramatics of relationships way earlier in my life.
A part of me agrees with you. Part of me thinks that those experiences also help shape who I am too. So that was like a necessary process. It kissed a lot of frogs to get to where I am. And the frogs actually helped me determine who I wanted to be with. There is a distraction for sure, because you are not investing in yourself. But I also think that love and romantic relationships, maybe I'm a romantic, I think all of it is needed too in this world.
Yeah, it's definitely needed. I think it's more funny. A friend told me once that when you're looking for a partner, expect the best and accept nothing less. And it's not saying expect someone that's perfect, but know that you deserve someone who's better than you.
You've shared some great stories. So before we go, please share with our listeners where they can learn more about you, your projects.
So the easiest way to find me is on my website. It's just papercraftmiracles.com. Super easy. I'm also at Papercraft Miracles on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, but I'm not on there very often. Sucks being. And my podcast is called Reach the Stars Podcast. And you can listen to it on all the major podcast networks, and you can find it in the media tab on my website under podcast. It has all videos of everything and audio of everything. We have almost 60 episodes at this point and not stopping anytime soon, but it's a collection of conversations with cool people who do cool things.
That's exciting. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. As we conclude the episode, I just want to thank you, Janna, for sharing your wealth of knowledge, your expertise in sustainable creativity. Let's take a moment to reflect on the power of passion, creativity, and sustainability in your business. And let's carry the inspiration forward as we continue on our own entrepreneurial journeys and our own path. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversations and actionable tips to ignite your marketing and your business journey on future episodes of the Spark and Ignite Your Marketing podcast. And until next time, keep sparking and igniting.